Let's take a little twirl around the rink with a morning skate edition of the Inside Edge. Here are your hosts, Bob McElligott and Jody Shelley.
Well, today at Nationwide Arena, the Blue Jackets will take on the Detroit Red Wings, and we've got a special setting here today. You don't hear the sticks and the pucks and the skates behind us because we already did our morning skate live show on the internet this morning. We streamed that. So Jody and I have moved our way over to Tim Hortons. We're having a little fireside chat here at Tim Hortons with a couple of bagels and a couple of beverages, and you even had some Timbits, didn't you?
Yeah, I did, and they were outstanding. Thank you. And you know what? I was freezing over there for that morning skate where they streamed that to the internet. So this is a nice little change to come over to Tim Hortons and have a coffee and warm up.
Place with some atmosphere here for us today. Well, the Blue Jackets hoping to get right back into the thick of the playoff race. Well, they're in it right now. They're in the race. Yeah. But they could be in a playoff spot by the end of the night. They've got 78 points. The Red Wings sit ahead of them with 80 points, and the Blue Jackets hold the tiebreaker. Ironically, as Detroit has continued to rise, the Toronto Maple Leafs continue to slip and fall. They also have 80 points, so the Blue Jackets could be in the first wild card spot with a win here tonight in regulation.
Yeah, and it's interesting how the landscape changes over a short period of time. We say that almost every day that we speak, but it's true. This situation is your target is the team that's straight ahead of you. You're trying to create separation from the teams behind you. Washington is now right in the mix there too. So, and even Jersey. I mean, I know I counted them out there last week, but you can't really do that with over 20 points or just around 20 points left on the table for a lot of these teams. So, a lot can happen with 20 points. Teams can get hot. Teams can get really cold. In the Jackets' case here tonight with the Detroit Red Wings. Isn't it funny how there's 2 points ahead of them now, and it's their main target, whereas last week it was a big win here for the Jackets at home with the Detroit Red Wings, and looked like that kind of pushed them back, but they're not going anywhere.
No, they're not going anywhere, and you referred to that 4-1 win the Blue Jackets got here at Nationwide Arena over the Red Wings just a couple of weeks ago, and now if they can duplicate that today, it doesn't have to be 4-1, it can be 2-1. Just get it done in regulation, and you're right back in a playoff spot. The Red Wings, you can look at their roster and say, how are these guys hanging tough? Because they don't have Pavel Datsyuk and Henrik Zetterberg. But before we talk about some of the guys that have stepped in to fill their roles, let's talk about a guy like Nicholas Kronwall, who's still there and is a constant. And with Zetterberg, their captain, being out, I would think he's the guy driving the team.
Well, yeah, he's the guy that's he's been there for a while now. And he's learned from Nick Lidstrom, who's a fellow countryman and one of the best blue liners to ever play hockey. And a great leader, a quiet leader. And you kind of sense that he's really passed that torch on to Kronwall, who's, brings a different dynamic than Lidstrom with that physical play that he has. But he definitely has that skill set. And I don't know if he's as cerebral as Lidstrom. I mean, I say that meaning that Lidstrom would be 3 steps ahead of anyone who had the puck at all times. And it was just bizarre how he knew where you were going to put the puck, even before you got it. Cromwell's got a little bit of that. He's got good anticipation, good hockey sense. That's what the scouts call it, hockey sense. But he's definitely the guy that's carrying the torch here for the Detroit Red Wings.
Yeah, no surprise when Henrik Zetterberg was knocked out of the Olympics. He was the captain of Team Sweden. Once he couldn't play anymore, then Kronwall took over as the captain of that team the rest of the way. I kind of get the feeling that's the same thing he's doing right here with the Detroit Red Wings. Let's move up front now and talk about the young guys that they have that are really, you talk about carrying the torch. How about Gustav Nyquist? He's the number 1 star of the week in the NHL this week. Thomas Tatar, not really far behind him when it comes to exciting plays and exciting goals. Talented guys, the Red Wings, they find them in the draft. Maybe they don't find them until the 4th or 5th round. It doesn't matter to them. They find them, they groom them, they have them ready to play their system.
Isn't it funny, though? I mean, they have these young players step in, and they won the Calder Cup last year. We spoke of that this morning. They won the Calder Cup as a group down in Grand Rapids. And now a lot of these guys, through injuries, are getting a chance to play together for the Detroit Red Wings, and you're not going to find a healthier situation. You talk about depth in an organization. When you have champions in your minor league, I think you look to them a lot sooner than if you have a team that's 18th in the league or last in the league. You're kind of thinking, well, there's not much down there. But I would say that they're paying high attention, and for a good reason. You talk about Nyquist. The Glenn Denning is a guy that you said earlier wasn't supposed to make the team out of camp. He's a solid centerman who's learned how to play center in the National Hockey League and is doing a great job. This kid, Tartar, I watched him play the other night. They played against the Minnesota Wild. He scored a goal that brought me back to 1980. I mean, it's a one-on-one play where he makes a quick little move with good speed and puts a top shelf over Brizgalov there. I think it was the game winner. And you spoke of Nyquist earlier. He's got 23 goals in 46 games, and let me tell you what, 18 of them have come in the last 23. He's found his way here really the second half of the season, and there's a lot of talk of him, especially in the Detroit Red Wings room. And you put these guys with a guy like Franson. I don't know if Cleary's been playing, but Cleary's out there too. Cronwall, Bertuzzi, and then the goaltender, Jimmy Howard. I think he's playing tonight. I'm not sure. You would probably have the scoop on that, but pretty solid team. Can't take them lightly. Huge game for both organizations.
Yeah, no question about that. And you're right, Jimmy Howard, very solid guy. He didn't play last time these two teams were here because he had the flu, and Peter Mrazek was up from Grand Rapids and played in that game and played well for about 2.5 periods, and then the Blue Jackets got to him for 3 goals in the third period. But you talk about the going to your American Hockey League team when they're champions, and you might do it a little bit quicker. You know, there are different ways you win championships in the American Hockey League, and some teams will do it with a lot of veteran players that they sign as insurance policies for the NHL team. And, you know, a lot of times they're kind of stuck between they're not good enough to be a regular in the NHL and they're almost too good to be in the AHL, and they achieve very well there. Then you have other teams, and I think this was just like the Grand Rapids team, where you get 1 or 2 veterans that you have there for leadership, and then you put a lot of young guys with a lot of talent around them. And that's the way they won last year, with a lot of those young guys. So as a young guy, being a big part of it there helps you to be ready to be a big part of it here, doesn't it?
Well, just think about it. You've seen some champions, and how those guys, those young guys, like you said, that's interesting, come together to win. That's a special thing. You have a special bond with these guys. You've been through war, you've been through ups, you've been through downs, but at the end of the day, you hoisted a trophy together. And just think about how proud the Detroit Red Wings and the brass, the GMs and the coaches were up here in the big leagues were of that group doing that and achieving that as draft picks and as young players that were the future of the Detroit Red Wings. So all in all, just a healthy environment. But it really does speak volumes when a young team can do that and then the next year be rewarded in gobs because of injury.
Well, the Blue Jackets have decided to go with the same group of forwards tonight. No Corey Trop, no Matt Fratton, no Jared Bull. They won't play tonight. But there will be a change on the blue line. Nikita Nikitin is out tonight. Nick Schultz is going to draw back in for the Blue Jackets. And for Nick Schultz, it's just a veteran blue liner who is used to playing a lot and has had to make an adjustment here recently, being a healthy scratch the last couple of games, but a guy that I have no doubt will be ready to go tonight.
Yeah, you look at Nick Schultz. He's been around a while. He was... He got here from Edmonton, where that team is just struggling so bad. He's played 875 career games in the NHL, so you talk about a veteran, and he's only 31 years old. So he's still relatively young. He's not the oldest guy on this team by far, but he's played. He might have the top games played in the dressing room. He brings that, and he's a guy that he can play big minutes. He can score goals. He's proved it in the past. This year he's not scored yet, so maybe tonight he can get a power play goal and get himself and the team going.
Yeah, and that'll be a set of fresh legs back there for the Blue Jackets against the Detroit team that skates very well. Sergei Bobrovsky will be back in between the pipes for the Blue Jackets tonight. Tonight's game is going to be nationally televised on the NBC Sports Network, so what you can do is you can just turn down the TV sound and you can get Jody and I on the Blue Jackets radio network. If you want the local flavor of it, and I'm sure you do. All right, and that'll wrap things up from Tim Hortons here, right next to... Yeah, if you want to hear about Detroit all night, that's right. You can watch NBC Sportsnet. We're at the Tim Hortons here, attached to Nationwide Arena, and that's going to wrap up today's Morning Skate edition of The Inside Edge.
You've been listening to the Morning Skate edition of The Inside Edge. Come back every game day to get the breakdown from Bob McElligott and Jody Shelley.